Happy to bring in Jason Reid of Andscape, as well as author of the new book, Rise of the Black Quarterback, which is available wherever you get books now. And Jason, we praised it as you joined the stream, man, but we'll do it again here for the radio. Kenny and I got an opportunity to read the book over the weekend. Absolutely tremendous, tremendous historical context to the NFL, and really gives backing as to why we say some of the things that we do about players at that position in today's league.
Well, I appreciate you guys for having me, and appreciate you for the kind words. You know, I set out to try to tell a story about the history of not just the black quarterback, but black men in the NFL. You know, focusing on black quarterbacks because of their importance and the role that they played in this league. And I just, you know, so when I hear that you like the book, it makes me feel good, because I wanted to get these stories out, and I wanted to do the best job I could telling the stories of these men. Nah,
man, phenomenal job. We'll get the hard stuff out. Well, it could all be hard, but this is the current issue that we got going on with Deshawn Watson. And my partner talked about during the break where Deshawn Watson is starting to get into this category, almost like R. Kelly, where it's like you can't even really, like, I don't want to talk about him. Like it's very uncomfortable, and it's very like crazy. And a perfect example of that is last night I was just, after reading some of the book, I just it put me down a rabbit hole of like, man, I want to see some videos of different conversations that, you know, some other black quarterbacks have had in the past. And there was this roundtable with Warren Moon, EJ Manuel, and I forgot the guy's name who went to Tennessee, but I just was listening to it as I was walking around doing some other things. And then I went to like see, oh, who is that talking? And Deshaun Watson was on there. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know. Just seeing him and just seeing what's going on, it's become very uncomfortable to see him. And I don't know how this works out for his career, to be honest with you.
Well, look, everything you just said, okay. And the issue is that with him getting a 6-game suspension, the NFL's disciplinary officer handed down a 6-game suspension, no fine. Like, it doesn't feel right to a lot of people. It feels like, okay, something more should have happened here. And the NFL wanted him to be suspended for a year and have a hefty fine, a massive fine, you know, in the millions of dollars. But the NFL disciplinary officer didn't feel that there was enough evidence to go beyond the 6 games, which in the NFL's personal conduct policy, which she determined he violated, but by his actions, 6 games is kind of where she felt it came down, and she didn't feel she could go further than that because she didn't have the evidence to do it. So, you know, you look at the situation, all the women who came out, and it just doesn't feel right that it's only 6 games. Now, as far as where his career goes, guaranteed $230 million, biggest guarantee in the history of the NFL. And I think it's one of those things where after this suspension situation is dealt with, because the NFL can still appeal it. And if the NFL does appeal it, you know, they'll go back and try to get more games, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
So the NFL, actually, right before you joined us, we weren't sure if you got to, the NFL did appeal it.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay.
Before you join us, yeah, the NFL did appeal it. And I think it was actually Ian Rappaport just posted a note here about how, because the NFL appeals it, now the NFLPA can respond. This is ultimately probably going to wind up in federal court somehow. And
well, yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, brother. The thing is that this is the arbitration system the league agreed to. Mm-hmm. So, like, after the league, like you said, they just appealed it today. Whatever the appeal is, that's going to be it. You know, whatever the ruling is on the appeal. And because this has been collectively bargained, I mean, this is in their CBA agreement. So this will eventually end. It's going to end with whatever the appeal ruling is. But my thing is that, look, two grand juries in Houston declined to indict him. The Houston Texans settled 30 lawsuits with women. I believe of the 24 lawsuits that he had filed against him personally, I believe all but one of them or 2 of them have been settled. Mm-hmm. The arbiter, Sue Robinson, she heard from the NFL. She heard from Watson's camp. She heard from the NFLPA, and she just didn't feel that she could give him more than 6 games. Now, we don't know what the appeal is going to say. The problem is the league had to appeal this for the optics because, all anybody's going to care about is that, well, no matter what the league wanted, he only got 6 games. So the league had to do this. But, man, what we've seen is that when people win, a lot of things are forgotten about. So here's my guess. Let's just say that the appeal doesn't tack on any more games or a fine or anything else. And let's say after 6 games, Deshaun Watson is back on the field. There will be people who will protest. There are going to be people who are outraged about this because it doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. But I would not be surprised that if Deshaun Watson balls out and Cleveland has a great season, you're going to hear less and less about this every week. Because in our society, if you ball out, if you win, a lot of people are willing to overlook a lot else.
Yeah. I also, where is that line drawn though? You know what I mean? In the world of the NFL, I believe you're 100% accurate. But like in the black community, like there are still, I guess there are still discussions about, is an R. Kelly song going to come on the playlist or not? Can you pull up an episode of the Cosby Show? Can you know what I mean? Like Deshaun 3 years ago was arguably top 3 quarterbacks in the entire league. Mm-hmm. And it's a tough thing to reconcile.
Well, let me go down that road you were going down about Cosby and R. Kelly. I was out with some friends at dinner one night, all black people. And I say that because it's relevant that it's a group of black people. Mm-hmm. And there was a black woman in the group who said that, but the 12 play is still one of the greatest CDs ever. And people jumped on it. I mean, not literally, obviously, but it's like, how can you say that, and, I just shut up and I listened because it got real heated. Like R. Kelly in our community now, you can't recognize his brilliance as an artist because of everything else. Mm-hmm. And I get that, people, because of everything that happened that we know about now, it's just one of those things where like, man, but so when she said that, 12 play is still the greatest CD ever, I was like, oh boy, like I knew it was about to get hot. Okay. Yeah. And look, if he goes on and wins a Super Bowl for the Cleveland Browns, I think a lot of people are going to be kind of the mindset where like, well, yeah, but he did win us a Super Bowl. I just think it's. I'm not saying it's right, okay. And again, I'm with y'all. The 6 games thing, it just doesn't feel right. Even though under the NFL personal conduct policy, I understand why she ruled the way she did. But there's the letter of the law type thing, and then there's just how it makes you feel, and it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, no, it's a crazy situation. We already see that at training camp the other day when Deshaun Watson was there, and he was getting mobbed in a positive way, I guess. People getting autographs and saying, "We're with you, Deshaun," or whatever. So you still see it. I mean, before he went into jail, R. Kelly was still able to have a lot of people at his concerts, right? There's just going to be that group of people that they're not as bothered by, I guess.
And let me say this, like Deshaun Watson, 2 grand juries in Houston did not indict him. They did not feel there was enough evidence to indict him. And so I want to be clear when I try to make this analogy. Bill Cosby was sent to prison. Okay. So he was convicted. It's not the same thing. Okay. So, and I know I'm probably going to still take a lot of backlash when I say what I'm about to say, but there are still people who will tell you that in our community that Cosby got set up, that Cosby, no, I don't believe it. I mean, there are still people who will say that. And again, I'm not drawing a straight line between him and Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson wasn't charged with any crimes. I want to make that clear. But, we know what the things that we deal with in our community on a daily basis and the conversations that we have, when white people aren't around and the things we say to each other, it doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Let's transition to the book. Jason Reid, author of Rise of the Black Quarterback, available now wherever you get books. You pointed out something really and I don't know why it had never dawned on me before. You pointed it out really early in the book where you're talking about, Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, this different group of black quarterbacks that are in the league right now. And you mentioned Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes being the first black quarterback who was like the best. Like, he was the guy. There was no Brady, there was no Manning, there was no Dan Marino looking over Warren Moon or any of those John Elway looking over Randall Cunningham. And I was like, damn, that never clicked with me, that Patrick Mahomes was the first. And every time I see Mahomes and I hear the way that Mahomes talked about, and I think you'll know what I mean when I ask this, is Patrick Mahomes the safest, like, first black quarterback to be the absolute best? Because, like, there's Patrick Mahomes and then there's Lamar. Like, they don't look the same. And Patrick is a little bit safer for some.
I totally feel where you're going with that. And I would, like, a few years ago, I would have said to you, yeah, that if you're making the comparison, to Lamar, absolutely. But you see why I shy away from even like going there and now saying 100% I agree with it is because back after George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis by the police, Patrick Mahomes came out in a video with other NFL players, but he was the guy at the time. There was no question. He was the best player in the NFL. He came out in this video and said, Black Lives Matter. Now, at the time, the NFL didn't want anything to do with the Black Lives Matter movement. Mm-hmm. If you remember, after Colin Kaepernick's peaceful protest, Kaepernick ran out of the league, and the NFL was just furious about the fact that he brought this attention that the NFL team owners didn't want. So when Patrick Mahomes said Black Lives Matter in that video, it changed a lot of things. Like you couldn't be against Patrick Mahomes if you're the people who run the NFL, because he was the best player in the league. And he forced the NFL to acknowledge the Black Lives Matter movement, to step up more, funding social justice issues. So yeah, I get what you're saying, but even he kind of turned to something that they didn't expect. Because when he said Black Lives Matter in that video, it forced the NFL to now finally acknowledge this and deal with it. But yeah, he doesn't look like Lamar. He doesn't have twists. And if you're an NFL team owner, you see differences between them in the way they look, the way they play. But Patrick Mahomes showed, hey, I'm black. He could have chosen to be quiet, but he decided not to. And he said, Black Lives Matter. And he knew what that was going to do. Okay. Because look, a lot of white people, and I say white people because we know that from polling on the Kaepernick protest, it fell along racial lines. Black people, according to polls, generally supported it, and white people, according to polls, generally didn't. So he knew that by stepping into that thing, he was declaring, look, I'm a black quarterback and Black Lives Matter. So so basically team owners didn't even get the break that they, thought they might have gotten from him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Jason, we have I don't want to call it a running joke because there's a lot of truth in how we go about this. But myself and Damian, when it comes to a black head coach in the NFL and definitely in college football, you won't hear us go crazy on them, right? Like, they may make the worst play call of all time. We'll be like, that was unfortunate. And I think why we do that. We're not, they don't get a shot. They don't get a chance. So I'm not going to be the black man to come on here and talk about how this guy sucks, how Lovie Smith is no good. You ain't going to get it from me, right? Mm-hmm. When it came to the black quarterback, there was a time when that was the case. Yeah. It felt like, and I said, we've been doing this show for 2 years. And I remember, matter of fact, it was the season opener between Mahomes and Deshawn Watson. And I think we went down the list of week one, there was 10.
It was 11.
Yeah, black quarterbacks, right? And it felt like at that time that we didn't have to do that with the black quarterback no more. We were here. It was accepted. We're good to go. we can, we don't have to be coy with any criticism with them because we're gonna get another one back in there. In the last couple months, when you talk about what's gone on with Lamar Jackson or what hasn't gone on with his contract and the way we feel he's kind of been treated or mistreated in Baltimore, some of the things that's gone on with Kyler Murray, are we not where we maybe thought we were when it comes to black quarterbacks being accepted, even today in 2022?
I just wrote about this today, as a matter of fact, because look, things have never been better for black men who play quarterback in the NFL than they are right now. Deshawn Watson and Kyler Murray have the biggest contracts ever in NFL history. There are star black quarterbacks throughout the league. Black quarterbacks have this position of power and influence in the league that even 10 years ago you never would have thought possible. I mean, Russell Wilson is, he forces a trade out of Seattle. He's going to the Hall of Fame eventually. You got Patrick Mahomes, who has a massive contract. The other guys I mentioned, Dak Prescott in Dallas has a massive contract. Mm-hmm. These guys now are superstars, and they have the platform, and they are among the people who run the league. Having said that, though, it's still America. Mm. And even in 2022, and it's so funny you point to that Mahomes Deshaun Watson matchup a couple of years ago. And I felt the same thing. Like, we're finally at a point right now. I was in the process writing the book, but I was like, we're finally. Just this past week, the article comes out where these anonymous defensive coordinators talk about Patrick Mahomes. Once you take away his first read, he has to play "quote unquote" street ball, and then Lamar Jackson can't win passing the ball. And we see that Kyler Murray, the team puts in language in his contract that says, you got to go study more. So, we're still at a point where this is still America. And Patrick Mahomes addressed this in training camp last week. We said, we've had to fight to get here, black quarterbacks, and we've proven that we should have been here all along. But, you hear the evaluation of us, and it sounds a little different than it does of other people who don't look like us. I'm paraphrasing. That isn't exactly what he said, but that's the point he was making. So, no, we're not past it yet because we see, we let our guard down. We thought that, okay, all these guys are now in the league, they're starring in the league, but this past week showed us, no, we're still at a place where it's America, and we're going to see coded language, and these guys are still going to feel compelled to address it, just like Patrick Mahomes did the other day.
Is that what you think the Kyler Murray thing was?
About
the independent study clause in his contract?
Yeah, here's my thing about the Kyler Murray thing. The Kyler Murray thing brings back memories of a time when NFL people who controlled things openly said black people they're not smart enough and they don't work hard enough. That was a work habits thing, okay? Mm-hmm. And there was a time, and I just talked to Warren Moon about this the other day, there was a time when they would be open about it. I mean, it wasn't something that they said in secret. It was like, black quarterbacks, they black players in general and black quarterbacks also don't study enough. Well, I don't think the Kyler Murray thing was a direct line back to that. I think that it brings back images of that. Mm-hmm. But for me to think it's just an overall racism thing, then Mahomes would have to have had that in his contract, and Lamar would have had to have it in contract. I think what that was, while it reminds us of that was just the Cardinals being really stupid, okay? Mm-hmm. Because you don't guarantee a guy $160 million if you don't think he is putting in the right amount of work. What I think that was that the Cardinals generally were okay with how Kyler studies, but they're guaranteeing $160 million now, the second biggest guarantee ever in NFL history. And they probably wanted to poke him a little more to think, okay, study a little bit more because you're great with the way you're studying right now. But if you just eat up that playbook even more, mm-hmm. You can maximize your ability. But that's not something that should have been put in the contract. That's something you say to him privately, because putting it in the contract, it brings back all these memories of saying that the black quarterbacks are stupid and they don't work hard. And why would you give a guy $160 million if you don't think he works very hard? Right. Okay, it didn't make sense. And it didn't make sense so much, they wound up taking it out of the contract because of the backlash. So the Cardinals made a huge mistake. I don't think it was about overt racism, although that's the memory that it brings back.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. Reid in your book, once again, Rise of the Black Quarterback, Jason Reid. You guys go get that everywhere that you can. Phenomenal read. But reading your book, then I was actually listening to some interviews and hear Warren Moon talk about some stuff when he was coming up. And there's things that you just, they don't even make sense to think about. He talked about how when on his pro day, he wouldn't run as fast as he could in his 40 because he didn't want them to even get an inkling of changing his position. So if he was fast enough to run 4.4, 4.5, he said he made sure he ran 4.7, 4.8. Just because, and like who else has to deal with that kind of stuff? And I see things, I'm a Niners fan, and I see things with Trey Lance, and I see Trey Lance as being like just kind of like a good prospect at quarterback. But when you hear about it, then maybe it's indirect and they don't know that they're doing it. But Trey Lance, he's got that RPO option now. Like, no, he's a quarterback. He's not even that fast. Like he's just a quarterback. But inherently, there's things that always get labeled with a lot of the black quarterbacks and I think it gets into their head too. I think I heard EJ Manuel, or maybe it was even Deshawn in that interview, saying like, "Oh, if you ask me, it seemed like he was overcompensating for how much he likes to throw the football." And like, why does that even have to be a discussion? Like, let me just play quarterback. If you run, you run. If I throw the ball, I throw the ball. And do you see that with some of these quarterbacks and the discussions that you have, that they tailor their game, they overcompensate their game to being a pocket guy to prove that they can be that, as opposed to just letting their natural ability take them from play to play? Like, do they feel that pressure to overcompensate in the traditional sense of a quarterback?
Well, first of all, let me apologize because my son was going to football practice, so he just walked behind us as we were doing this.
And so,
So
is he a quarterback?
No, he's a wide receiver. But I'm with you. I definitely think. I definitely know for a fact that in the past, like pioneers did that. James Shaq Harris, who was the first black quarterback to start in a playoff game and to start a week 1 opener. I mean, he told me like he never felt himself in the NFL because he never allowed himself to play the way he did in college. He went to Grambling. He never allowed himself to play that way because he was always fearful if he played the way that he was most successful, they might not let him continue to play. Now, I'll say the guys in today's guys, no, I think they let it rip. They do what they do. They play their style of play within whatever the offense is that their teams are running. But yeah, the Pioneers, the Pioneers did not have like room for error. Okay, they did not have the ability to say, well, all right, the coach is telling me to do this, but I'm gonna do it a different way. I'm gonna do it the way I did it in college, and I know that's the best way to do it. So I totally hear what you're saying about tailoring it. And in the past, without a doubt. Nowadays, no. Now these guys, they do what they do because listen, they got all this guaranteed money. They're the faces of the team. They know they ain't they can't pull them out because they're paying them this way. So yeah, they do what they do. But in the past, without a doubt, that did happen.
We could do this all day. I'm sure you have a million more of these to do, man. We can't thank you enough. Thank you for your words. Thank you for the book. It really is incredible. Rise of the Black Quarterback. Before we say goodbye, you spent some time as a Dodgers beat writer.
Yeah.
Anything you can share with us about any interactions you had with Vin Scully during your time?
Yeah, I actually posted about this on Facebook today. When I was a very young reporter working for the LA Times, I got promoted to cover the Dodgers, and in LA, you can imagine how big of a job it is covering the Dodgers. And I was scared out of my mind. I mean, I was a kid. I was really worried, was I going to be able to do this job? And one of my first days at Dodger Stadium, someone introduced me to Vin Scully, who I'd grown up listening to, and he could not have been nicer. I mean, this guy, he was already in the Hall of Fame, probably multiple Hall of Fames at that point. Just this icon, not just in broadcasting, but in baseball and in the country. And I'm introduced to him, and I admit it now, I was nervous, and He was just asking about my background and, and the things that I had done. And I'm just standing there not saying a word. And he picked up on it. He sensed it. And he just was saying all these nice things to me about what he had heard about me and what a great opportunity this was. And, anytime I need to talk to him, stop by the booth. And he shook my hand and he walked away. And fellas, I'm telling you, I don't think I said 2 words the whole time. But, as the years went by and I covered the team for 7 years, Vin was nothing but, couldn't have been more accommodating, couldn't have been more classy. On the road, the writers, like on the Sunday games on the road, we all have breakfast together, and Vin would stop by and at the table and talk to us. And, in rain delays, Vin would come out and tell stories. Like there's nothing like Vin Scully, for anybody who's heard him, he tells these great stories on the air. Mm-hmm. Well, imagine, sitting at dinner with him and he's telling these stories. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite, and I know I'm getting long-winded here. I'm going to.
You're good. You're good.
The Dodgers during the time I covered them, we'd all go out to dinner, like the executives and the writers and the broadcasters, and like there's nothing like you sit at a table with Vin and you could literally listen to him talk for hours. He'd talk about the old Brooklyn Dodgers days, and he'd talk about Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale, but he just wouldn't talk about them. He would tell these stories, and the way his voice was, and he was just a very kind man. I had an opportunity back in those days when I covered the team trained in Vero Beach, Florida at Dodger Town. They don't do that anymore, but you go from LA to Florida, Vero Beach, and there was this bar at the team complex, and Vinny and Tom Lasorda and Don Drysdale when he was still alive, they'd come in there and they'd tell these stories about the 60s and the 70s and what the team was doing, and everybody always just wanted to hear what Vin had to say. And he was class. He was class. And I hadn't talked to Vin in years, and I had not seen him in years. And I wish I would have told him how much what he did that day, the first day I met him, how much it meant to me. But I didn't do it. And life moves fast, and we always think we're going to have time to do things, and it doesn't always work out that way. But he was an incredible man, much more than a broadcaster. He was an incredible man, and my heart goes out to his family today. And just want to say rest in peace.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Well, we're glad you had time to share that story and time to write this book, man. Again, it's incredible, Rise of the Black Quarterback. You spent a ton of time with us, man. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And again, congratulations on the book.
Awesome.
Hey, brothers, thank you all for having me. Appreciate y'all. Thank you all for having me.